five, four, three, two, one. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Moon Tea Podcast. Today we have a return guest, Dr. Mike O'Neill.
Hey.
Oh, wow.
I'm excited.
Dr. Mike was on I guess like a double episode. I don't know when it was, maybe like 12 or 11. It was probably, I think, the only episode where Hugh and I were in the same room.
It's probably true, actually. That is very true.
Yeah, most likely.
And then it was such a terrible time. We've never had it happen since.
I'll say. Yeah, it was fun. We had a blast that day. That was a great time.
We moved the whole cities around, all the cities around. It was fantastic.
and just for some context, I think we were texting about like some Tesla investor blog, and then Dr. Mike he was like, we were just chatting about it, and he was like, "How are you guys?" And then I was thinking, like, why don't we just catch up and record it and put it on the internet, so we have like a 3-for-1. So yeah,
absolutely, that was fun.
Gosh, it's really good to have you back. It's been so long. Genuinely, how have you been? We haven't talked very much. We'll text every now and then, everybody, whoever is listening, and Dr. Mike is one of the most interesting people we've yet talked to, for sure.
That's because you guys got to meet more people. That's why I'm interested. Yeah, what have I been up to? Crazy busy summer with the eye care practice. Eye care in America is challenging right now. Healthcare in America is challenging with the COVID pandemic. Hiring team members is tough. We're understaffed. Our area has very, very few folks who want to work in administrative positions, and it's showing everywhere. There's cracks in everything right now.
Yeah,
from a healthcare perspective. So
very hard.
Yeah, but yeah, everybody's doing well. Can't complain. How about you guys?
Good, great, delightful. What's my quick update? Family's doing well. Friends are doing great. Designing bit by bit. Somehow still have a job. It's a good life, you know. And then this thing is coming along. I don't know how we've made it so far, but hey, we've stayed at it. Pretty consistent, awesome. I'd say. And
that's awesome.
Yeah,
good for you. And how about you, John, on your side?
I'm good. I'm living on my own for the first time ever. Not like I'm living without housemates.
Okay.
So that's cool. Yeah, just moved to an apartment in New York City on the Upper West Side. And yeah, it's been good. I'm like decorating it how I like to, just like in ways that make sense to me. Like I don't have a bed. Instead, I have a Japanese futon that I take out of the closet every day.
Okay.
So
that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, other than that, I've been going to the office about twice a week, which is really cool. And yeah, I'm trying to like stay in New York City or the immediate area for a while, and not like fly around for a while, because I did a lot of that the first half of the year. So just like trying to like build a community here and just like go on bike rides and explore different parts of town. And luckily there's a lot to explore. So
you think New York City, man, you live 10 lifetimes there and just crack the surface.
But yeah, it's fun.
It's cool. So Hugh, how about you? How about you on the work side of things? How's everything going?
It's going well, to be honest. I somehow ended up as a senior product designer as a team of one. We raised our Series A in March. They're 34.4 million.
Oh, wow.
And then hopefully raising again. No, not hopefully, but think we'll probably be raising again soon. And the team's grown from 1 to now 3, and just put in paperwork today to hire 2 more. So we'll grow to 5. And I don't really know how to be a manager, but hey, it's an interesting time trying to like be at a scrappy startup and both design while also managing. And it's very interesting. I definitely had one at least one question in this whole time will be like, so Dr. Mike, tell me about your thoughts on what a good manager equates to.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Dang, he was the head of design now. What an honor.
Senior product designer. Hey.
What's the space? You're doing what? Crypto?
Yeah, we're in financial tech, fintech, and we are extending financial services, kind of like virtual credit cards or cross-border payment channels, border to border, cross-border, etc., in developing countries or less developed countries as America. So right now we're focusing on the Latin America region, Mexico, started out in the MENA region, Egypt. Dubai is not really underdeveloped and stuff, but their payment channels and stuff like that and payment services aren't as well developed. So stuff like Brex in America, but we're not competing with them because they're very America based. And so, yeah, we're kind of like Brex, but even more stuff as well. And then one day we'll be playing in the blockchain space. So we'll be doing some tokens. We're going to have a tribal token. And I'm still trying to figure that out with our blockchain team. But we got funding for a few million in March from Stellar, and we'll be growing that out, and we're building on the Stellar blockchain and stuff like that. And I'm sure even more details will be coming out soon. But yeah, it's an interesting game to play, and I barely know what I'm doing, so we'll get there.
That's awesome, man. Good for you.
That's great. Dude, good stuff. Head of design at a rapidly growing company that is trying to do a lot of stuff in the financial services space.
Nice. Absolutely.
And I just move squares and circles on a screen.
we all do some variation of that.
Yeah. Oh, it's true, isn't it? Yeah. So what have you guys been doing reading wise? Any interesting books?
Please go for it, John. He reads more than me, I'm sure.
I've been reading mostly for fun. So read there's a Netflix like series about it, but read a book called The Queen's Gambit. So
that was a terrific series. I watched that with my wife. Terrific.
So I have not watched it yet. Usually in any given like month, a friend will be like, you should really watch this, and like most of the time I just don't. But I've said this for like a week now, but like I want to watch it. For some reason I haven't. But the book was great. Like it was really well written, really great story. I imagine just as good like content as the series. Other than that, what am I reading? I don't know. I downloaded like 3 more books, so have not read them yet, but just like going through it. So one about positive psychology that I'm kind of like, I guess my sister and I have like a mini book club, so we just have to like read it first. And then I really like biographies. I like reading about a person, and like doesn't really matter to me if they're like rich or famous or whatever, but I guess those are the kinds of people that people write books about. But it's like it's cool to like dig into like what people's motivations are and like try to like live a little part of their story, because chances are it's really different from mine. But yeah, how about you, Dr. Mike? Any good books?
I read The Art of Learning. Me, Josh Waitzkin. I don't know if this is me.
I read that like 6 months ago.
Somehow Zoom will put it up here.
You need to draw a face on it, and then it'll
Yeah.
unblur itself.
The book was fantastic, shockingly good, total top shelf book. But what I found so fascinating about it is here's a guy who was one of the top people in chess, and he quickly discovered his talent wasn't chess, it was learning, and then he became one of the top people in Taekwondo.
Tai Chi push hands.
Tai Chi, sorry, yeah, Tai Chi. And he knocked it out of the park, man, in like 2 years, or just over 2 years. This guy's one of the world champions from zero. I mean, this is like not the couch to 5K concept, it's the couch to the marathon concept in a month. I was talking to a patient of mine. He's I don't know how many degree black belt he is in Tai Chi, but it's a lifetime of learning. And this other guy banged it out in a little over 2 years. It's just, that's not normal. It's not even reasonable. He blew the doors off of it. And it was fascinating to read how he not only did that, but chess made him better at Tai Chi, and Tai Chi made him better at chess.
Yeah, that was a really cool part of the book. And yeah, fun fact, he's a black belt Brazilian jiu-jitsu person. And then now I feel like we need an art of learning too, but now he's like training for foil surfing, which I guess
what?
Foil surfing, I think that's what it's called, where it's like you have a little like windsurfing thing, and then you have a thing under it, and you can go really fast. So
I've never Googled something on a podcast, but I'm looking at it now. Oh, so it's one of those surfboards that you ride above. It's above the water.
Yeah, it's got the fin, the dorsal fin, and then you can pop up the bob around on it.
Oh, that looks fun.
Yeah. So that's I just saw an interview, and that is what he's training for right now. I think he and his wife like left New York City, and they're in like Costa Rica or something. But
wow.
Really interesting guy. And like, it seems so unreasonable that he could be like top 10 in the world in it, but I'm like rooting for him that he does.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's done it twice before. I'd always bet on that guy. It's why I love betting on Elon. It's just another company that he's going to blow the doors off of,
Yeah, Elon's a winner. Do you have a FSD version 9, by the way?
No, this is my sad face, John. My sad face.
Ah.
I'm on, what is it? Version, just got an update a couple days ago.
For anyone, FSDs.
Yeah, 2021.24.10. So it's, well, I guess, I don't know if it's version 9. Maybe that is, I can't remember, but
yeah, so the versions are independent of if you have FSD or not, which I discovered. I don't have it either.
My fingers are crossed that I'm one of the first button pushers where they beam the magic button out and we can hit the button for FSD. But Elon was saying the other day that this Friday the version 10 should come out, and then today he said that it's going to blow your mind how much better it is than version 9. And that's primarily because they removed radar. So they removed something in order to dramatically improve something,
To be fair, he says that about every version, or it's gonna blow your mind.
Yeah,
this is a game changer. This is amazing. It's a what does he use?
Step change.
Says it's what does he always say? Something of something. Whatever. But
yeah. Well, I mean, I'm a fanboy, obviously, but it doesn't have to be it doesn't have to actually drive with 0 engagements in order to be successful. I mean, there are people, I've seen the videos where the drive is so long that even in 2x on YouTube with a video that's probably 5x, you're looking at like a 10x, it's still a long video, and these things are disengaging 1 or 2 times. And what I've seen is the disengagements come primarily when people think it's a little bit of a dicey situation, so they take over manually, you know. But I'm so excited about this. I have a vacation going back to Western Canada where I'm from, and I'm trying not to schedule it around the FSD button because I just
Oh,
couldn't imagine being up in Western Canada, nowhere near a Tesla, and FSD gets launched. Oh, I'd be mad. I'd be so mad. I'd have to wait. That would be rough.
if you do want to be a beta tester, I think you can email someone at Tesla with your VIN number,
Mhm.
and I think they will like beam it to you, and then you download it from there. I've heard about people getting it that way.
Well, if you can get an email address for that, you let me know, because I would love to do that. I
Yeah, it
don't
was
think they
like,
would have as many rural testers as they need, you know, out here in the boonies where deer walking across the road is a regular weekday, you know. I can
yeah,
be the person that tests the fuzzy animals, the fuzzy objects for Tesla.
yeah, those are all valid data points.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'm really super stoked about this. Cannot begin to tell you how excited I am. And
Me
you notice
too.
their stock price has come back to life lately. That's nice. It took like a half a year break, almost 3/4 of a year break, you know. But I don't think anybody can complain after owning it for a short period of time and just making out like a bandit with that stock. So where do you guys think it's going to go to? What do you think of the robot that came out, the AI day? Did you guys did you watch the AI day?
That was a
Hugh?
lot. There was a lot going on that day. It was the one of my favorite renderings was when they had, what was it, the dog, the kid, and the mom jogging on the freeway.
Yeah.
And then they're doing model renderings off of that. And you're like, okay, fantastic. I'm very glad that we're able to do this digitally.
Yeah. That was a little different, but
It's cool. The edge
yeah.
cases
So
that
what
they're
was your
testing
guys'
are super
impression
awesome.
of AI day?
Oh, dude, that was over my head. Like I mean, it was awesome. It's just like out of my depth, and I understand why like traditional analysts were not invited.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was a recruiting event, and I mean, okay, I think it was very funny when Elon had a guy in a robot outfit, like pretending to be the robot, and then he
Yeah.
started dancing. That was so funny. Um, I I'm not I'm not as much of a fanboy with regards to the robot because I suspect that they don't have anything yet, and that's why they have a recruiting event. That's why they have a guy in a robot outfit, and
Yeah.
that's fine. I just think that's like a longer than medium term kind of
Sure.
thing. Like Elon said 1 year. Like he doesn't know.
Mm-hmm.
He's never built a humanoid robot before, and I mean I hope that he does it, but I'm just like I and I mean I suspect with enough recruiting the right people, and like someone like Elon could do it. um i I'm just not like totally clear on what the value proposition is, just because I feel like it's easier to build robots in the shape of like the specific thing that you're doing. But I guess that's the thing, where anything that is built for a human, you can just like swap one of these robots in there. It's just like I'm not totally clear on, number one, how it helps Tesla's mission, and maybe it does it indirectly, and then number two, like what are we supposed to do with it outside of the manufacturing world? And I've heard everyone's like hot take on what it could be, but it's like we're all speculating here. um
Yeah. I think it's a ways off I mean, he's talking about next year. I'd be really surprised. But the job ads that they're posting talk about bipedal robots, the human stand-up ones, and wheeled robots. as well. So that just illustrates that they're going to have different modalities for robots, you know. But yeah, the AI day, you know, the robot got all the press, obviously, which is pure Elon. That's what it's designed to do, get a headline on every major technology section or even the regular sections throughout the world. I mean, why post job ads when you can have people clamoring to apply to your company, right? So he nailed it on the recruiting side of things. That was spectacular. And what was, I think, underappreciated by people is that Tesla they designed their own chip before for the full self-driving. They've designed their own chip a couple of times. Now they're building a supercomputer. So I just saw a week or two after that I think it was the Department of Energy just launched an 800 petaflop supercomputer, and Tesla is, and for something, I can't remember what it was, but like general use essentially. And then Tesla's got a 1.2 exabyte supercomputer for one purpose, and that's AI and the neural nets and that type of thing. That's insane. Like, did you see what's his name on stage with the big, it looked like a massive kind of Lego block for the chips, and then they just stack them and they're off to the races. This is something that NVIDIA can do. Taiwan Semiconductor, maybe. And this is a car company doing this. I mean, at what point do you stop and you say they're not a car company anymore? I mean, for the love of God, they just designed their own supercomputer. Has Ford done that?
Isn't Tesla seen kind of as a tech company that makes cars these days rather than a car company that makes cars?
Where you live.
Oh, okay. No.
Yeah, I mean, and your guys well, certainly, right? No, I hear all the time that it's a car company. It's a car company. Over and over.
To be fair, most of their revenue comes from cars right now, and most people don't watch AI Day, and most people don't read Elon's tweets. So, but yeah, I agree. There are a lot of opportunities with their Dojo supercomputer, and like there's a potential AWS angle, which Elon has alluded to before. And yeah, I mean, it'll be cool. There was one interesting thing that I'm actually kind of interested in your hot take, Dr. Mike. So in the blog post, which we can link in the show notes if I remember to, but the person basically says that once Tesla solves autonomy, it's not going to be worth them even making cars. I don't know if you read that, but like,
yeah,
what do you think about that?
Maybe someday, but Tesla, their core competencies have changed so dramatically, right? And so quickly. They just can't get their arms around how fast this company moves, because companies their size don't do this. I think that for these guys right now and for years, not a couple of years, but years, they're going to dominate manufacturing in ways that you can't fathom. Not a little bit. Like we're talking right now, the regular car companies are 11.3, 11.6 margin. And Tesla's, depending on how you slice it, 25. And that's without the full self-driving being fully recognized. Like before they transition to having massive software company revenues, you know. I don't know what the margins are on full self-driving, but my car, your car, we've got all the cameras, we've got the computers in them, and they can't recognize most of that revenue, right? So from a manufacturing standpoint, somebody, maybe it was Elon, had said a regular factory is set up for 2 dimensions, length and width, and it goes up a little bit. Like they build into the air a little bit. What Tesla is doing is they're optimizing their manufacturing processes for volume. not number of cars coming out, physical volume of the factory. As in, if the things, I think Austin's like 5 stories tall or something like that, they are filling the volumetric space of the manufacturing facility. So they're just, as a manufacturer, they're playing with an extra dimension. And not that's a literal way of thinking about it, right? They're not length width, they're length, width, and height. They're looking at cubic volume of this. So they figured out that if you apply the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule, to trying to get better and better gains on their cars, they said, well, yes, we're going to still do that, but you're trying to squeak out 1% or 0.5% or things like that. Whereas we could approach it differently and take all this big brain engineering power and put it in the manufacturing process, which most people overlook, or at some level they don't focus the same amount on it, right? So they are, and Elon said this a couple of years ago, when every car company has full self-driving, they're going to be the de facto leader in manufacturing. So getting back to the point of the AI, okay, I'm an eye doctor. So how do humans see, right? Well, you got these little cameras with auto-focusing lenses, and then you got these cables that go into this big neural net, and everybody calls it a brain. Tesla's, they're just copying. They're just copying the entire system that has worked for all of humanity's lifespan. And so they're not, you don't need lasers in their model, probably, right? You don't need all these other things. They're just modeling how humans see. And the neural net that they're working on, what is the most spectacular thing about this is look at their iteration time. That's what the media doesn't ever talk about. They're currently doing 2-week software launches. Hugh, in your business, can you launch every 2 weeks like clockwork?
Well, we do sprints on every 2 weeks, but
Yeah.
John probably could vouch for that.
Exactly, like a full launch of something so incredibly complex. And they can reach out to their fleet. They can tell them to grab certain edge cases, pull them back, and then use that auto labeling team. And then the 1,000 people, for crying out loud, they have 1,000 people that label these edge cases. So they built a machine to improve so quickly that it's currently at the 2-week level, right? And in all likelihood, a couple of days of that is just fluff and buffer time. So when they get this supercomputer running, how long will it take them to go through an iterative cycle to improve in this example, the full self-driving?
Yeah, you did make a pretty good comparison to the like we have our eyes, it's connected to our brain. That's like exactly how it's working.
Right.
Tesla has 8 cameras. Like it's a vision-based approach. It's the same. It's like it sees the same like light that we see with our eyes. So it can like easily read stop signs. It can easily see someone walking with their dog on the street. And then this dojo thing is like the brain that's learning and being trained. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that speeds up that iterative process of learning and making fewer mistakes. And yeah, it'll be interesting. It's like once they like kind of get it, then they'll really get it. Because when they kind of get it, they figured out like the right feedback loop.
And that is right there. That's the key with Dojo. They're at 20, or let's call it 12 to 14 days for an iterative cycle on something unbelievably, mind-bogglingly complex, right? So they add Dojo into that. Their cycle time, it could go down to 2 or 3 days. right? And the 2 or 3 days theoretically could be a day or two of testing. The computers aren't going to need that much time. We all know that. So this is a cycle time that, like, right now they're going to have upwards of 20, call it, take Christmas off, 22 to 24 iterations and improvements in a calendar year. Dojo gets up and running, they could do 200 iterations. So how many times do you have to improve full self-driving before it gets to the point where it's better than humans? And then like 99.9% and 99.99%, and then 5 nines and 6 nines. How many times, how many iterations does that take? I don't know the answer to that, but 200's got to knock it well out of the park, right? So then they've got this entire machine built to learn how to do something really hard using eyeballs, like fake eyeballs and fake brain. And now they want to build a robot. And by the way, their supercomputer, they want more of it. They just need to figure out how to put more ice cubes on the chips to keep it all cool, because they can bang out more and more. Like the whole thing was scalable. They just set up a pod, for crying out loud. So that thing could be I don't know what comes after exabyte. I looked it up and I forgot, but that could just continue to scale. So this is the Dojo for full self-driving. What if there's Dojo for household chores?
Like a household cleaning robot. It mops and it sweeps and it tidies
Yeah,
up.
in the Jetsons from way before you guys' time, that cartoon, Rosie was the name of that. My wife reminded me of that, but they had a household robot that did all of that stuff. So you,
there we go.
A zettabyte and then a zottabyte equals brontobyte.
A brontobyte. Well, that's fantastic. Who doesn't want a brontobyte? It sounds like some type of dinosaur chicken wing, you know?
You
so
get so advanced, you become dinosaurs.
It's full circle, the circle of life. Yeah.
The interesting thing to me is that they've built this supercomputer. They're building a factory, like they're building this factory in Austin and Berlin, and I'm sure there's more to be built in China. Also Nevada, the Gigafactory, like that's still getting bigger.
Yep.
And this is like all like they've been profitable the last like 6 quarters or something. So it's like they're investing the cash into more factories and into these supercomputers, and it's like they're no longer in a place where they're constrained and they have to pick and choose like where to invest. Because like back in 2017, everything was invested into the Model Y production ramp.
Mm-hmm.
And now like Model 3 and Model Y are just like raking in cash. And like, yeah, people will say, oh, but it's a lot from credits and it's a lot from like blah, 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 accounting, whatever. But it's like, well, they've been profitable for 6 quarters. Like they are making money.
Yeah, there's some truth to that with the accounting credits and things. But they're looking at the icing on the cake, not the cake. The cake is delicious, it's big, it's growing, it's spectacular, and there's going to be less icing on it. Who cares? You can have more cake than you need or know what to do.
And every year that cake is 50% bigger than it was the previous year.
Yeah. So you go back to that AI day, skip the robot. The robot was pure PR. It was Barnum and Bailey PR. But you go back to what they're building. They've got the ability to manufacture at insane levels, and it's about to happen. I mean, Wall Street never believes anything until it happens, it seems, for crying out loud. But these massive factories, I mean, Austin, I don't think they've ever talked about the capacity of that place, but it's insane. Like it's enormous, and there's more and more, and it's Texas, so they can do whatever they want. They just keep building. Germany's horrible as far as a climate for building that stuff, but you know, they'll have all of these vehicles. They'll have the ability to control a vehicle. What if they could make a vehicle stand up like a transformer? Oh, wait, they're thinking about that, you know, with these robots, right? So to get back to like what can you do with the AI side of things and the robots, I think the answer is in a lot of ways, whatever the hell you want. You know, whether it be like, would somebody pay $25,000 for a robot that could actually clean your house? Gazillions of people would do that, right? However, less of them would pay for it than like warehouse people. Imagine if there was a robot that could pick fruit and vegetables 24 hours a day. What's the value of that to a company? You know, I don't know how hard it is to walk across uneven terrain or to figure out which type of avocado looks better than another type of avocado, or blueberries, or who knows what. Like blueberries would be tough because you can't squish them, but certainly somebody's thinking about that type of thing, right? So that isn't going to happen by next year, regardless of what Elon says. But I think that people just don't get the fact that they have talked about the vehicles, they've talked about all this. They're demonstrating they can do all these spectacularly difficult things with the machine learning. But they built the machine. They built the machine that makes the brain smarter, and they're going to start making the machine that is attached to the brain called the body. This is actually happening right in front of us, you know, pretty spectacular. I'm not employed by Tesla, although you'd think I would be.
Hey Tesla, if you want to sponsor us, I know you don't do any advertising, but if you want to, we'll take $0 and a sticker. We'll take it.
Sticker sounds like pretty. I'd frame that sucker and pull it behind bulletproof glass, you know. Yeah.
So we have a little less than 20 minutes for the rest of the episode. Dr. Mike, what are you interested in diving into? We could keep talking about Tesla and EVs. We could talk about crypto. We could talk about how good Hugh's hair looks.
You guys pick.
All right, Hugh, tell us about your hair.
My vote would be what I'm so robots, Tesla, amazing. But also I think about the other extensions of Tesla that sadly aren't as talked about as much, right? Like the Powerwall, the solar panels and such, and then also just like ways in which it like arguably sure self-driving is benefiting mankind. Robots that help Amazon do more shelf lifting and such will benefit mankind, and dusting our house will benefit mankind. But what are some other things that I'm just trying to think, because I think Dr. Mike, you're one of those more very, very knowledgeable on just like a lot of things. So what are some other things that you think are important that we should be addressing or looking into addressing, and how to fix that you see as possible problems that people are struggling with, that some people don't need, you know, a self-driving car, they might need just running water type thing?
Yeah, I really wish Tesla did the HVAC stuff. I'm itching for that. The field is ripe for massive innovation. It's ridiculous. We're having an HVAC problem right now in our house, and it's just ridiculous the hoops a person has to jump through for something like that. Tesla could knock that industry on its butt, plain and simply, just flat out on its butt. And I think it needs to do that. I would really love it if it did. But, you know, bigger picture, Elon doesn't seem to be attracted to the Bill Gates approach of like micronutrients and toilets, all these incredibly unsexy things that actually change the world. I mean, micronutrients is so boring, it can't get attention. But as far as impact on children and growth and IQ scores and all that, you can't find anything to beat it, you know? So Elon just doesn't seem to be attracted to that, right? He wants to grow humanity to another planet, all those types of things. And I'm a big fan of that. I think that Tesla, as far as manufacturing goes, getting these robots up and running will happen vastly faster than anybody thinks it's going to. I saw 60 Minutes on Boston Dynamics. You guys ever see that bit on 60 Minutes where they have the dancing robots and all that stuff? And that was so cool. Except look at the blooper reel. That's what they
Oh,
didn't
what
talk
happened
about.
on the blooper reel? I didn't see this.
Robots were falling all over the place.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because they have to be programmed, right? I don't believe they're using neural nets. So the robot wasn't able to adapt to its environment. It looked like it had to be like not hard coded, but geez, darn close, right? So a company like that's already figured out the locomotion aspects of a standing robot in a lot of ways. That might accelerate things quickly, but I don't know what they're going to work on next. I would love if somebody with this level of engineering talent dove into vaccines, kind of a hot topic right now. You know, the mRNA vaccines, and this is probably why Moderna is doing so well stock wise, but those will end up changing the world. I think I said last time, and maybe I didn't, but Moderna and Pfizer, those whoever created those vaccines, they're going to end up winning the Nobel Prize. And if they don't, it would be a travesty, absolute travesty. But they're talking now, and there's an HIV vaccine in testing. There's vaccines for some kind of far-flung stuff that they're looking at doing. And gene editing, that's another thing that's enormous in healthcare. Super complex, super boring, not going to get any attention up until the point that they can announce something's cured. But there's some extremely specific, awful diseases that can be cured with gene editing. So I would love it if some of that AI, dojo stuff could be maybe plugged into healthcare a little bit. And I don't know if that's an apples and oranges type comparison, but it would do a lot of great things for the world,
Totally.
Yeah, my understanding of the Dojo supercomputer is that it's optimized for training. It's like for like machine learning training stuff. And I would love to like spend a month looking into like the different chips and like and like looking into like hardware and seeing how everything works. I just haven't had a chance. But yeah, that's interesting to like think about, because Elon has said there's an AWS angle where they can like rent out, like they could if it makes business sense, they can probably build like hundreds of these and then just like rent out server space.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like really interesting to think about what could be built when you have a bunch of data and then you can like train. And like I don't exactly know how it works, but my guess is like you train some kind of like reward function. Like you have a bunch of data and you say like try not to get hit by a car, and then it learns and it gets better and better. And yeah, it's like we're thinking about like gene editing or like developing vaccines or like insert whatever really big problem here. And it's like there's a lot that, if I'm understanding it correctly, it's a big opportunity, not just for like Tesla's business, but also for hopefully doing really impactful stuff, and then maybe some controversial stuff, but hopefully mostly good, impactful stuff. That'll be really interesting to just like continue to keep an eye out on and like learn more about.
Yeah. Like with Tesla's they did the simulation at AI Day. So they built these simulations that were so ridiculously accurate, the software could learn from a simulation. That was really something. That's a game-changing concept. You know, the worlds that were training the neural nets didn't physically exist in real life, right? So if that can be done, can they take put 1,000 or 2,000 people on the case for creating a model, you know, a simulated model of human X, whatever that might be, for testing these type of healthcare concepts? I don't know the answer to that. But they also started with 2-dimensional images, and they figured out how to create vector images. So they're basically adding yet another dimension to their modeling, and they pulled it off, for crying out loud, and they did an incredible job of that. So I wouldn't count any of these folks out, but it's just, where do they choose their focus? You know, where do they want to put that? And Elon is the uber geeky engineer, so he's looking at more of the mechanical type of things in so many different ways, right? But if they, not if, but when they open up the dojo concept to Joe Public, you're going to have an insane amount of neural net training for things like, for example, diabetic retinopathy. When you have diabetes and your diabetes is really bad and it causes the back of your eye, the retina, to bleed and hemorrhage and all those types of things. There's currently AI looking at that. So that has nothing to do with Tesla, obviously. But these are, as far as an AI problem, I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's easy for AI because it's the same thing, same type of picture every single time. So they have a constrained environment. You know, you're not walking around with a camera, an iPhone, taking pictures of the world and then asking a computer to figure out if they have diabetic retinopathy. It's not like that. So at some point, can, for example, skin cancer, can you take a picture of your arm, and if you have a mole or a freckle on your arm, can you upload it to the skin cancer prevention app? The phone beams it up to Mr. Dr. Dojo, the dermatology AI, and sends back with a risk level. So this is something that a person, Joe Blow, with an iPhone could take a picture of their skin, send it to the Dr. Dojo, and then the doctor says their risk level and whether or not they should show up in person to a dermatologist. Something like that. If it's not in the pipeline, it needs to be. And there's no reason it can't do that, because the neural net would just be fed with gazillions of pictures.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah. Wow. Dr. Mike, what are the business opportunities here?
Well, I mean, I don't know. There's so many of them that it's hard to, I'd have to really stop and think about that. I mean, what has incredible demand? Absolutely incredible demand, right? That's probably one of the core reasons why Tesla is so successful, is they don't have a demand problem. I have a friend in Norway right now. His wife and family live there, and he's a doc in the US. His wife is finishing up training over there. And so he goes to Norway every couple of weeks, and they have like a 74% electrification of their passenger vehicles in Norway. So if you want to find out what the opportunities for electrification are, get on a flight, go to Norway and see what North America is going to look like in 15, 20 years. It'll be super similar because they've already figured it out, right? So what exists in the regular world that AI could do an absolutely spectacular job at? Most people hold it rather near and dear to their heart to stay alive. So healthcare is going to be a rather large chunk of that. And I don't know other parts. I'm not sure. And one thing I want to mention, though, is I don't think we should underestimate gaming as a concept to this, right? Like, people my age feel very differently about gaming than people your age, and you guys feel differently than people who are still in like school and stuff. But gaming makes more money than Hollywood.
That's great.
There's more revenue in gaming than Hollywood, all of Hollywood, right? And so you think if you could put a person into something that's so immersive. In fact, somebody said that. I can't remember who it was. One of the Twitter folks said that Tesla's got these simulations that they're using for full self-driving. They wanted Tesla as a new revenue stream to license them to Grand Theft Auto and those types of franchises so that they could develop their games faster by using Dojo as a service. And I thought, well, I didn't see that one coming.
That's amazing. Wow. Yeah, I feel the graphics engines are being used, like, I feel like it's kind of a symbiotic relationship. Little I know is the gamers and the gaming industry create the engines for the graphic renderings, and it's gotten to a place where Tesla's able to start to understand that type of tool set and utilize it now. And now it's almost coming back full circle where they've created such a tool that the gaming community is trying to tap into it, which will be interesting.
Yeah, there's so much value to each of those two companies to figure out a way to make this work that I don't see a scenario where it doesn't happen at some point. I don't know how the gaming stuff is made, but and then geez, think about how many Teslas that's going to sell. Somebody's driving around a Cybertruck, right? There was a Chinese company that made an ad for the Cybertruck. It's a Chinese gaming company. They use their Cybertruck in the ad, and it was insane, absolutely insane. You just wanted to buy one as soon as you're done seeing. This is a computer game, nothing to do with Tesla at all, as far as I know, right?
So Tencent is a large shareholder in Tesla, and they own a bunch of games. So
yeah,
that was probably the reason for the connection.
Probably, yeah.
But yeah, still very cool. It's like free advertising, and the game gets some street cred because they have a cool car in there.
Yeah, it was just a nice tie-in. So I think that the gaming side of things, you'll see, well, not that we want to get into crypto this far into the phone call, but Ethereum, Bitcoin, all those things are focusing on, Ethereum's focusing on DeFi. Somebody said the other day, Solana's focusing on gaming, which would achieve faster adoption. And I don't know if that's accurate or not, but whatever the crypto is that would be focusing on gaming or enabling gaming or whatever, I think you got to take a long, hard look at that, because if you look at the budgets of people who play computer games seriously, I don't think there is a budget. You know, people dropping 5, 6, 8, 10,000 on their gaming rig. I got some relatives with those racing chairs. They vibrate now. I mean, the whole night. These people are not spending $100 on a joystick like the old days. So it'd be interesting to see how that kind of turns out.
That's such an interesting point. I feel like one of the biggest throttles and throughputs for expansions for blockchain technology picking up is just having people be able to use it easily and transactions and transfers. And that's something like, there's been a relaunch of World of Warcraft recently, and some of my friends have played it and they tried to get me onto it. Sorry, friends. But I always watch it though. And it's incredible to me, because something that is interesting, slightly tangential, but is exactly that point of, if someone is able to create the blockchain tokens or NFTs really, and they're able to distribute it and get the community adoption effect of the gaming network, then things like in Dota, there's a game called Defense of the Ancients. It's the highest prize pool ever. It's like 30 million plus for their Super Bowl every year, right? Wow. And it's insane. And basically in the game you can get items, and on those items you can get signed items, and you can wear it on your character and use it. But I'm like, what if, and it just makes so much sense that one day in the digital world there'll be NFTs based off those items, and those item sets you can purchase and transfer. There'll be a valid monetary value that are interchangeable, not just within a gaming system of Dota, but throughout the whole abstracted network of every game. And then even in World of Warcraft, right? Like if they had one day they create items and people pay $10,000 for XYZ orange item. I don't know, but it's a really good point that you make about the Solano ecosystem taking off.
You guys heard of Comic-Con, right?
Mm.
So the physical world, not the digital world, although there would be an argument there's a heavy crossover there. People spend an insane amount of money on stuff at those types of events. It becomes this entire community, which celebrates uniqueness and individualism and all those types of things. What you just said with the NFTs being unique, you pin them to your character, whatever it might be. At some point, you don't have to spend much time in the real world anymore.
That's the part that scares me.
Your avatar is digital, and you make it more. You're like, where are you investing your money? Are you investing it into new clothes for yourself? Or are you investing it into new outfits for your avatar? And I'm willing to bet you that it's a shockingly horrible ratio going into the digital world, not the physical world, you know?
Oh God, yeah. How long do we have on just NFT artworks and then the digital realm being created? I don't know if I'm actually very excited for the direction. I'm not being a negative Nancy here. However, I do like the idea, right, of so like Ethereum, like very briefly, Ethereum is interesting because they're kind of Eurocentric outwards and they're kind of solving first world problems and such like that. But then I do still enjoy keeping up on a heartbeat on like Cardano and how they're actually trying to help third world countries create an identity system and even a medical record system, right? So if you have a heart attack on the street and you don't have, and you're an immigrant and a refugee, how do you know what their optometrist said last time to fix their bleeding retinas just because they're diabetic? You know, I think that would be, I think that's really cool to see, but I don't see how. The biggest issue I see is how do people in the first world, especially younger generations, how do we get inspired and how do we become less virtually driven and rabbit holed into just going to VR for life and living an escapist type reality? Maybe it's not, but I think it kind of is. And really trying to instigate and instill that desire to utilize such technology for external purposes. And I still don't know it yet, but.
Well, what I'm doing with our kids, and this is nothing to do with Tesla, although I did set up an IRA for them and they bought some Tesla shares, but that's another point.
Good job, kids.
It's conversation. Like it's conversations like these, right? Even though this is virtual, we met in person and we had physical conversations that just so happen to be virtualized, right? So they're asking me, we have two boys, 10 and 7, and they're asking me when they can get an iPhone. And my answer is basically like, never. I don't tell them that exactly, but I want them to learn conversational skills, right? I want them to learn how to talk to people, because at the end of the day, no matter what, this will still be a people game. Being successful in life will always be a people game. It might be a digital version of a people game, but those characters, those avatars, they're still going to have feelings, emotions. They're going to get offended if you say something bad. They're going to get happy if you say something, that goes that route. So that's how, and I spend more time than I'd like to admit trying to think this through, but that's how I would like them to learn how to live their life, and you guys have already figured this out, obviously, but how many people your age go home and hop on the Xbox or the PlayStation and then go to sleep at night? Not many.
That or Instagram or anything else. Gosh.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to hammer this, but my wife spends more time than I think is healthy on Facebook, and I've now got kids. Here's what the kids say. Our kids, they go, "Oh, mommy's on mindset cancer again." And she's like, "What?" And I said, "Well, I told them, when you're on Facebook over and over again, you're giving yourself mindset cancer." And she's like, "You are nuts." Well, okay, so this is obviously an extremist position. I took a rather ridiculous position with her, but Facebook's designed to get you to scroll forever and compare your life to how everybody else feels. Except that's not really how they're feeling. That's their public perception, right? So you've got one marketing brochure after another coming from people in so many different ways, and then you've got your own reality, and there's no way you can measure up to that. School pictures for kids are a fantastic example of this, and we're all going through this right now with the kids. You've got these kids parked in front of this beautiful door, the front door of the house, beautiful house, everything looks fantastic. What a wonderful day. This went off without a hitch. Nobody screamed, yelled, cried, threatened. Well, as a parent, that's exactly how it goes down. You scream, you yell, you threaten. You got to do all of this stuff for these kids on picture day, but none of it comes across in the photos. So I use this as an example because for us, we actually had a great day on the first day of school. It went down extremely well. There wasn't all of those types of things. The previous years, it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible trying to get the kids to stand still and look happy for these pictures. But when they go on to the social networking side of things, you just never get a chance to feel happy about something, because by design, the psychology behind it makes you think you're inferior. It can't possibly be a different outcome. On average, not everything, right? But on average. And you also deal with people who are extreme attention hounds. They're trying to get as much attention as possible on Facebook, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm picking on Facebook, Instagram, I don't know how TikTok is for this type of thing. That seems to be a little more entertaining. But
I think it's
living
the
in
worst.
that.
It's literally, that's why it's the worst, is because it's so sticky and it's the fastest growing social network ever. And
Right.
Oh goodness, yes.
Right. But now you compare your life where you go to work, it's hard most days or some days. You have problems that you have to solve in real life. You got a girlfriend or a boyfriend that's not super happy with you, and you compare it all to this perfection persona on Facebook. Under what scenario can you possibly feel good about yourself? Explain. I'm all ears.
I just want to say the research suggests that the amount of time that you spend on Facebook or Instagram is positively correlated with your likelihood of suffering with anxiety or depression. It's like it's a very clear relationship.
Yeah. So do you think mindset cancer is too extreme?
I agree with you. I would not use those words.
Yeah. So it needs a little
if my wife. Yeah,
marketing.
It needs a little needs to be smoother on the edges. But yeah, I don't know your wife. I think it depends on what she might.
Depends on your humor between
to.
yourselves. Yes, I'm sure there's a lot to. I'm sure you're doing well. That's just
think of the worst possible thing to call it, so that the kids latched onto it and they would point it out every time, and they do, and it's fantastic. So our children will need therapy because of daddy's marketing term for Facebook, but that's okay. At least they won't be on it.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. I don't want my kids on social media. My unborn children.
Yep.
Yeah, it was actually really interesting for me. I've never been opposed to just not having social media as a media studies major. It's always been interesting to me, but over time, it definitely started to, like, as a designer, from a design perspective, there are touch points when interacting with a digital interface, like an app, that cause mental cues. And so there's actually that one episode that everyone's probably seen, and I forget what it's called, on Netflix, of the social media, the network thing. And the guy that's a designer, he's like, the biggest thing I regret is designing the infinite scroll, and the fact that you can infinitely scroll without any built-in cues that cause you to press and say load more. And I think that, as well as algorithmic type tendencies of matching you with similar interests and then becoming even stickier that way. It is just basically built for addiction and to maximize, as John once famously put it to me as we were driving up to Big Bear to go camping. He's like, Facebook's algorithm is literally designed to keep you on there longer, right? And it makes sense. So something that I thought was cool, and I just literally talked to my friends with this yesterday, is we compared our, we have iPhones, and we compared our metrics for pickups. And if you swipe left from your dashboard, you can see your pickups probably, or under health or whatever. And then you can also see total hours on your phone per day or per week. And then it'll break it down by the apps that you use. And I remember going through this where I uninstalled Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and Facebook. And literally overnight, about 2 months ago, 4 months ago, I don't remember now, my usage of my phone went down by 68%, and now is pretty consistent in that sense. So it's kind of interesting. And I think that technology is neither good nor bad, but it just depends on how it's designed and utilized. And I do think that a lot of these social media apps are definitely designed to not get you off the phone, but on the phone more. I wish there was more, like from a designer perspective, it would be nice to have a phone where you can have a lot more curatorial privileges to allow XYZ emergency contacts to come through at any time, turn off the ability to get all of these other types of apps and stuff like that. And then just exactly what you're saying of being on the map all the time, especially, now with Starlink coming up, you're going to be having kids in camping, and they're not really camping. You're just on Instagram. Like, I'm down with Starlink because I can go work and literally be on my laptop and design and then go on a hike, right? I'm excited for it that way. But technology isn't going to do that for everybody. It's going to cause people to be on Instagram more. And that's like kind of where all of this kind of thought process goes of, I don't know.
You know what my 10-year-old, our 10-year-old just told me 2 days ago. He was on Roblox and he spent a bunch of Robux, their money on Roblox. And he knew he wasn't supposed to do it. He knew he was doing it over a period of time, and he did it anyway. And I asked him, why did you do that? And he said, Dad, it's like smoking. I just can't stop. And this is a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
Well, that's terrible.
What Instagram is. Every time there's a like, it's a dopamine release.
Yeah, exactly. So this is terrifying to me. So he doesn't know this yet, because I want to spend some time thinking it through, but he's going to remove that heroin needle from his arm and going cold turkey. So there's no more iPad. We can't you can get rid of Roblox, but then it's playing whack-a-mole. He has to learn the self-control necessary before he's able to play those types of games. That's all there is to it.
I just wonder, because I don't have kids yet, but this is amazing, especially from your perspective. It makes so much sense. It's just, there is like a line though, right? Where are you handicapping your kid? And I genuinely don't know. Are you handicapping your kid by not having them be technically savvy from the get-go? Or is it good to have that incremental integration with that type of technology? And if so, when? But also it's an educational type thing, but also something that needs to be driven from the inside out, not an external side in. So that's where I always see, I hear it a lot, and I'm not saying it's the wrong thing to do, but I've always kind of worried about parents who just like cold turkey their kids and basically ostracize their kid from the social dynamics, which are already difficult in that growing up stage. So
don't worry. He's
still
got an iPad at school, and now they're back in school. So he has the social aspect in human person, right? So that's a different story. I agree with you. And as far as the technological ostracization, that's almost impossible. We're not Amish, for crying out loud. I mean, there's technology all over the place, but at that age, they master it so quickly. It's mind blowing. What I'd like to do instead is get him to build his own PC, or get him on a PC, learn how the non-Apple side of things work, figure out how Google Documents, Microsoft Word, all of these things that you can actually be a productive member of society. He's already doing PowerPoints, things like that. So there's all kinds of technology that a kid can learn. But I don't know that anybody's ever accused Word or Excel of being addictive. You know what I mean? Like they're tools to accomplish something. You don't, I don't know, you don't get a dopamine release from scrolling down on Word, right? Maybe you do. That's be a little odd. And you're also not, you don't get the mindset cancer because you're not comparing yourself to somebody else's ideal. You know, things like that. So I want them to grow up with like the core fundamental things that you can't get from a computer or a screen: kindness, empathy, you know, conversational ability, those types of things. And you just can't get those from a screen. It's not possible. It has to go away.
Yeah, something about that is one thing that I've wondered about is I once heard about this piece of tech that I still have to look deeper into, but like if I had a really, really young kid, I don't want him to be on an iPhone, which is just so powerful, right? It's just unbelievably powerful. But I heard of this tech where they gave their kid a watch. And so a lot of parents are afraid of their kid running out and being free. But if you look in Japanese society, the parents have their kids go to school 6-7 miles away using subway, public transportation on their own at such a young age. And we held our kids' hands here in the States till XYZ age. And so one interesting piece of tech if that's cultural, we can't really change it by saying, you know, change as a culture, but also we are not as safe in certain ways than Japan. And so there's those things to weigh. But I also believe that there's ways to possibly create like progressive iterable technology and technological pieces for different age stages that don't just give you an iPhone. And like one of the coolest pieces of tech that I once heard of, and it's so simple, and it's exactly kind of like the concept of the dumb phone or something like that, is for a kid, if you're worried about them going out and running and playing, even at the park 6 blocks down, there's like a watch that does not look beautiful. So there's no emotional design to it. And that's why it's not taking off. 2, it's not very well interface driven and stuff. But like, if we can create like a beautiful watch, like the Apple Watch that emotionally attaches to people are really, and it has a good user experience. And all it has is 3 numbers on it to talk with your parents. And you're always on the grid, like a GPS maybe. That seems like very fair, progressive steps with regards to tech. But I don't ever hear any tech like that being like talked about at large or at scale, or how do we have the Montessori system or whatever it is. Like, I just wish that, you know, tech wasn't just the most incredibly powerful piece, but I wish we had the abilities to either curate that tech like adult controls, but even more in tune, or we had actual tech pieces, because we can now. I mean, we have Tesla doing AI day, you know, like why is it always about like this huge next thing? Like, why can't we? I don't know.
Right. I think you're right on the money. I plan on giving our kids an Apple Watch before the iPhone, so that we can, you know, you can communicate shockingly well with an Apple Watch if you're willing to jump through the hoops with other people, right? Like texting, group text. The 3 of us wouldn't do it because it's a real pain. But if you're a kid and that's all you have, it's the best thing ever.
It's a good idea. Actually.
Wow. The reason that hasn't happened yet is because Apple doesn't want it to happen.
Well, that's the thing. It pisses me off, but I think someone else should just make it. I mean, it's not hard to make a watch that costs 3 people and has maybe a basic SMS service, right? And the fact that no one's really designed something elegantly to do that, maybe I haven't looked hard enough, but marketed it and gotten investment capital, that upsets me.
Apple needs to do that in order to save the generations from all of these problems, right? But if they were to turn that feature on, it neuters their effectiveness for getting more people into their ecosystem and spending that much money. It would neuter it.
Well, that's the point. This is the exact problem. That's the exact issue. And I think a lot of the times it's all about getting that next round or getting that next investor to make a lot more money nowadays due to how that algorithm's been designed, right? I mean, that's genuinely what GDP is, right? It's a badly designed, something 80, I don't remember now, but there are other types of metrics that are probably more optimal to use as a society that are not just capitalistically driven with regards to monetary scale, but also emotionally driven. What's the depression rate? What's the suicide rate? What's and that should be a metric, and that should be what we're going off of. But that's like, I mean, isn't Silicon Valley coming up with their own stock system? And didn't they have that ability to kind of like re-change that algorithm, but it's not really taking off? But yeah,
I don't know. I'm just seeing that all of that, the proverbial mindset cancer, again, it's attacking our kids. And that means it's attacking other kids. The generation younger than you guys is anxiety laced, just riddled with anxiety. I see it in my patients. It's one after another after another. These kids have anxiety listed on their medical charts. Why? Is it something in the water? Is it something in the food? Maybe, probably not. That stuff's monitored. It's the other social influences that aren't regulated, I should say. So I'm not proposing regulation. It's not like that. Just don't do that stuff.
Yeah. Are you like me, up to both of you, where I genuinely, even like last night, I'm in bed and I have this, it's so upsetting to me that it's so ingrained that it's become like, I have this twitch and I'm like, oh, I want to check my phone. And I was like, I just checked it literally a minute ago. And it upsets me to like feel and see and think, notice that thought of, oh, and then you see myself like turn on and off the screen and no notifications. And then I'm like, I just get very frustrated with how I've been socially engineered and designed. It's so annoying.
Yeah, my notifications are all off as a general rule, because you don't need them on your phone. You look at your phone enough. I mean, there's so few things that you need to know by the minute or the 5 minutes or the 10 minutes. It's just unlikely. From a time management perspective, it couldn't possibly be worse to keep those on. So those are all off, except for a couple things. A couple of people who can call me and my phone rings, and my watch rings, so I don't miss the call. And then Twitter.
That's so interesting to me, actually.
Well, Twitter only... Elon, every single thing that he tweets, I want it to light up like Las Vegas. Not because I need to know immediately, but when he tweets, it's something that can cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
Which is what happened a couple times. And then a couple of the Tesla guys, because when they say something, it's really worth listening to. The value that their tweets provide can be extreme. That's it.
Otherwise, you might be able to do set up an automated alert where if someone tweets, then it sends you a text message. So it's almost like they're tweeting to you.
Yeah, I don't know how to do that. If you could show me how to do that, that'd be helpful, because I do tend to check texts more frequently. What I would like to do actually is, if Elon tweets, I want my phone to ring.
I can actually help you set this up for fun. I created my own texting robot called Hugh, and every morning it'll text me at 7 a.m. and it's very simple through Twilio. But I've actually was very interested in this. This exact type of conversation is exactly why that's been created. But if you really want to, we can play with it. It's like 0.001 cent per text, or 0.01 cents.
I have a Twilio account set up already for my software company.
Yeah.
Was that Hughbot 3PO? That's awesome.
I named it in my contact book, Hugh, and then it's basically a play on that.
Yeah, but I would love it if my phone rang every time Elon tweeted.
Love it. And then the idea from there would be to like create goals off of it. So if you want to add goals, then you get that type of notification. But like everything else that's triggering, and just I was like, oh, how do I get this to go off in my life?
Yep. Okay, I'm going to give that some more thought. I don't want to start a company based on it. Telling you that right now. I'm at my limit of company stuff.
Twilio, you don't need to do that. Yeah.
Unless it's really good. But
I think there are a lot of messaging app companies that are trying to make it big.
Yeah, Twilio could do this in a heartbeat if they wanted to, but they're focused.
Twilio.
It's what?
Yeah, it's built off Twilio and with IFTTT. Exactly or Zapier. So it's super easy to do the integration. Just takes like an hour.
Yeah, I don't know how to do any of that stuff, but
It's okay. We'll get you. We'll do it.
Yeah, definitely IFTTT. It's an API for the world. Dr. Mike, we asked all our guests this, but do you have any words of wisdom for our, or any parting thoughts that you want to tell our listeners?
Yeah, we've gone way over time as usual when three of us get together. I think that, that mindset cancer was definitely a marketing term used on my family, but the core principle is there. And if you want to have a massive impact tomorrow on how you feel, turn the crap off. Just do it. What's the worst thing that could possibly happen? You have to lie to people and tell them you dropped your phone in the toilet and it took a couple of days to replace it. You dropped your phone, whatever it is. Try it. See what happens. See if your life falls apart. And after 2 or 3 days of all of that stuff being off, sit down and think about all of the things that you got back in your life that you don't want to give up just to have your phone annoy the crap out of you. I'd try that. I've done that. I've taken it to the extreme and I'm happier. I'm just happier. And I got a ton of time back too. So we'll call that the mindset cancer time machine hack. How's that?
I love it. That's amazing, Dr. Mike.
You're at digital minimalism, by the way, because that's.
Yeah, I got through about half of that, and it was tough to finish that book.
You're like, I got it. Okay.
Yeah, the concept was great, but I saw the value of that in the first couple chapters, and then after that, it was longer than I think it needed to be.
Yeah,
That
sounds like you just need one Cal Newport interview, and then you're good.
Well, I was minimalistic about the digital minimalism book, which I think he would have been happy with. Who knows? I'm full of crap.
Oh, I love it. Amazing. Yeah, I'm going to have to, I never thought about just going into the notifications of all of them and just turning them off, because I've done do not disturb. And the thing I don't like about it is it takes 2 phone calls before someone gets through. And I don't want to have to say to mom or dad, call me twice. I want to
what if they
time.
can make a second phone call? So
exactly.
Yeah, not a good idea.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but that's awesome. That's exactly why I wish that was a setting. Just allow a certain favorites to come through on do not disturb, and I'd use it all the time. But anyways, we digress yet again, and I have a very, very strong feeling that we're going to one day, hopefully, at your have a round 3 with Senior Dr. Mike. And again, we'll sadly have to wrap this one up. So thank you so much, Dr. Mike, for coming on to the show.
Thank you guys. This was a blast as always.
And this is, once again, the Moon Tea Podcast, where we talk about craft, community, and building meaningful careers. And here we are yet again, and hopefully next week we'll be at it again. So tune in next time. See ya.